Here it is as we continue our focus on this talented Atlantic division. The Ottawa Senators, this time last year, everyone was talking about their forward group. As we look at their additions, Highmore, Kubalik, McEwen, Korpisalo, and then you see the subtractions on the other side of the ledger. I turn to you, Grimmer, and I use Grimmer's words to Grimmer when I say these were targeted moves by Pierre Dorion that tell you what?
Targeted moves. I love that term. I love that term. And what do they tell us? They tell us that Pierre Dorion and the rest of the operations staff at the Ottawa Senators, they like their roster.
Yes.
This was a group that last year, given the DeBrincats, given the, the core of this group, this is a group that should vie for a playoff spot. Didn't work out, to kind of reach that expectation. But again, very tight division. Very competitive conference. Takes a little luck along with a whole lot of skill and depth on your roster. But to me, just given the approach, adding a Kubalik, adding a Korpisalo. I thought Korpisalo was really a brilliant signing. It really buttons down, to me, a key aspect of the roster where these Ottawa Senators are concerned. But this is a club that's pretty comfortable in its own skin at this point. They like the organic growth that they're seeing from one year to the next, and they're going to get a good bit of that organic growth, Tony, because this is a group that's rather young in relative terms, and you're bound to see a 10 to 20% improvement from some of these key faces that we're seeing. Focus on the Korpisalo piece for just a second. Really strong signing. Gave Columbus really good service last year. This was a guy that over the course of, I think it was about 28 starts, Korpisalo is second to the team that gave up the second most shots on goal over the course of the year was a .913 save percentage. I mean, on its own, .913 is really strong save percentage in today's game. On average, we're taking just a few basis points above 900, but this is a guy that clipped off .915 overall, again, against a rather porous team, playing for a rather porous team, the Columbus Blue Jackets last year. So I like this as a two-tender tandem for the Ottawa Senators. I think that's an aspect of the roster they've really gone shored up extremely well. And remember, too, focus on this decor now, because going back 2 years in time, this was the thing that really plagued this roster. But now, as you look across that foursome, Chychrun, Sanderson, Shabbat, you really like the way this group looks. That's a decor that just about anybody out east would love to have as their own.
The first time we talked about this, and this time, the first name you said was Kubalik.
Yeah.
Why?
30 goals in his rookie year, albeit at a more senior stage than your typical rookie, but as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks, back when he's breaking in, this is a guy that, has the game it transfers for him stepping onto North American ice. So I like the contribution from a guy like Kubalik. In the right set of circumstances, I think this is a guy that could return to 25, 30 goals or better. So Kubalik to me is, while not a direct replication of what an Alex DeBrincat brought you, he's a guy that can really would go a long ways just in terms of offsetting the void created by a DeBrincat.
And McEwen, you're intrigued by that move. Why?
It's a sandpaper move. It's a grit move. It's, it's a long, grinding 82 games, the regular season across the NHL, and you need somebody who can provide some snarl, some leather, who can go into the hard areas, who can hold folks on the other side accountable and give you that heavier, grinding, playoff-type DNA as you transition into the postseason. So this is a guy who's had kind of journeyman service across Vancouver, Philly, LA to this point. But Zach McEwen, I think, if the fit is right, and I have no doubt that it will be, Zach McEwen's a welcome addition to this roster. So I like what they've done. They've accentuated what I see as a really bright roster, one that, again, should have competed for a playoff spot last year. I think this group takes a step forward this year.
It was here on NHL Network that in the World Juniors we saw Tim Stützle absolutely shine. Yeah. Then he comes into the league and he does what he's done. His continuing ascent to being a star, what's the next step look like for him?
Honestly, I think this is a guy, just in terms of the offensive production. Here's what it looks like across 3 years. 29 points his rookie year, 58 points his sophomore year. A nice step forward, and then blows the ceiling out of it with 90 points across last year's production. This is a guy, if he can replicate that kind of point production and hold down the #1 center spot for this Ottawa Senators organization, Tim Stützle, in my estimation, you'd have a hard time finding somebody that in 3 years has matured in the way that Tim Stützle has. Brilliant player, really sturdy, and a guy this roster is going to be leaning on for a good long while to make that kind of a contribution.
He makes that team must-see TV. Tim is the real deal. Sebastian Aho, same story.